77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.
As we begin to exit June into the 4th of July weekend, how's it going to work this year? So 4th of July is on the 4th, so you probably get a day off on the 3rd, which means if you're smart, you probably took off starting yesterday, Saturday, and you just take off those 3 days that you're off, kind of bookend the other ends, and 10-day vacation. Beautiful. So hopefully that was the case with you. If you are working like me, all good, all good. It's a labor of love, at least on this side of the glass. So speaking of love, there isn't a lot of love for President Trump, and we've known this now for 10 years. Let's face it, 10 years ago, he did come down that golden escalator at Trump Tower and entered a presidential race that very few thought that he could win. And now here he is on the precipice of becoming perhaps one of the most popular presidents of all time, and definitely in the modern era, certainly in the 21st century, especially when your competition is George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. And the reason I say that isn't based on, yay, Trump, and let's cheerlead. I'm a numbers guy, and I'm a common sense guy, and I try to look at the big picture. And the big picture right now is that we have inflation currently near 2%, which is about as low as you can get. We have border crossings down more than 95%. We have Iran, which about 2 weeks ago was on the precipice of perhaps developing a nuclear weapon that it would use either to blackmail Israel and the West or actually use in terms of wiping Israel off the face of the earth, which they have declared to do. And now those nuclear facilities have been obliterated. And before you say, well, wait, Joe, I saw a report in CNN and the New York Times and the Washington Post saying that we only set back their nuclear program a couple of months with those strikes from those B-2 bombers, and it really didn't do much damage, and, you know, we really should be cautious here. I'm sorry. I have now heard from the IAEA, that's the Atomic Commission. I've heard from Israeli intelligence. I've heard from the CIA, and I have heard from the Iranians themselves, who say that this nuclear facility at Fordo and in general, Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon for many, many years. And by the way, if they try to restart this program, you'll never guess what happens. We could fly in there and do it again. We could do it anytime we want because we see that Iran is toothless in terms of their way to respond to us militarily. They sent back some missiles at one of our U.S. bases in Qatar, and wow, they even gave us a heads up. Thanks so much. The fact that they knew that, okay, we can't get into a one-on-one with the U.S. military, and we're going to launch some strikes on a U.S. military base just to save face, to show our people that, hey, we're fighting back. But in the end, if they try to reestablish their nuclear program, I'm sorry, Israel will know exactly where they are. We're going to know exactly where they're doing it, and we'll bomb them again. And I don't think they're even going to try now at this point. Nevertheless, CNN still doubling and tripling down on their BS report, which was based on low confidence. It was written 24 hours after the bombing. Who the hell knows exactly over at anywhere in the world, quite frankly, how much damage was done here outside the fact that when you listen to the head of the Joint Chiefs, and that is Raisin Cain, great nickname, and he describes how many bombs were dropped, the precisions in terms of the way they hit, that there is no way that this particular facility at Fordo survived. Just no way. And it just makes sense, right? So in the end, I think as more intelligence comes in now, in the days and weeks afterwards, like it did from the IAEA, like it did from the Israelis, and even the Iranians admitting, yeah, this thing's done. I think CNN, I would say, oh boy, they're going to save face here, and they'll issue a retraction and apologize. It will never happen. Thankfully, we have a defense secretary, my friend and former colleague, Pete Hegseth, who is the Secretary of Defense. It still is funny kind of to say that in some way, only because like we used to do like these goofy segments on Fox and Friends Weekend, but he is former military, and obviously the guy clearly shows he knows what he's doing based on the way he's run the military so far as recruiting and as far as the military actions that he has taken against the Houthis and now Iran. We have the right guy for the right job in Pete Hegseth. Anyway, here he is at a press conference earlier this week just going off on the media, and boy, this was a pleasure to watch. Cut one, go.
Again, before I pass it to the chairman, because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard. It's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump because you want him not to be successful so bad. You have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful.
And how and where have you ever heard somebody speak that way to the press before? Good for him. We're not going to take your BS anymore, and I'm going to throw it right back in your face. So Pete Hegseth, not only running a great operation over at the Pentagon, but also understanding there is a political aspect to this, and the press is part of that, or if you even want to call them the press at this point, they're not journalists, they're activists. This is Joe Concha. This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel for Towers Foundation show. Back with more, including Bill O'Reilly in just a moment.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. 77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pâté. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in one convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring in our first VIP guest. He is Bill O'Reilly, of course. You can pre-order Bill's new upcoming book, Confronting Evil. That's on BillO'Reilly.com. You could do that today. You get it free when you become a premium or concierge member. Sounds fancy. Also, follow Bill at No Spin News. Also has a show on this radio station, WABC, here in New York from 9 to 10 a.m. Bill O'Reilly, thanks for joining us.
How you been, Joe?
Outstanding. It's been a while. Good to talk to you again. So I don't know if you saw the news that broke this morning that it has been uncovered that Zohran Mamdani wants to raise taxes in whiter neighborhoods of New York. So between being an anti-Semite and basically a communist, apparently also this person has a thing against white people and thinks they should be taxed more based on the color of their skin. How is this person in the running to be the next mayor?
Yeah, where is that coming from? Where is that report coming from?
That is in Newsweek, but it's based on an official document that's out of the campaign.
Number one, it's unconstitutional, so it will never happen. Number two, this guy is what I call a fringe politician. He's on the ultra far left, but portrays himself as more of a neighborhood kind of nice guy, which he may be. But if you're going to I know people who voted for him, younger people, and I told them, you're voting for your own destruction. Do you not understand that? Yeah. Now, they don't understand it, Joe. That's the problem. They don't know history. They don't know what happens when you cast a ballot for somebody who has an agenda that is not going to improve things but make things worse, a lot worse. And that's what the case is for Mr. Mamdani. I mean, I can't imagine him solving one social problem, one economic problem in New York City. Not with his stated views.
And we're talking to Bill O'Reilly, and exactly right, Bill. I'll read you the document word for word, verbatim here, just to give you a little more context. The administration will shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Quoting once again, the property tax system is unbalanced because assessment levels are artificially capped. So homeowners in expensive neighborhoods pay less than their fair share. The mayor can fix this by pushing class assessment percentages down for everyone and adjusting rates up, effectively lowering tax payments for homeowners in neighborhoods like Jamaica and Brownsville while raising the amount paid in the most expensive Brooklyn brownstones. I mean, this is utterly remarkable. Between this and opening up government-run supermarkets, which at last check didn't work in other communist countries like the Soviet Union, like Venezuela, like Cuba, and obviously all the recommendations around, well, we're going to have free busing and free universal child care. I mean, the city is already basically going bankrupt. Can all these proposals, is it just to offer free stuff to get elected, and then obviously it can never pass into law? As you said, some of it's illegal, and some of it even liberals in New York probably wouldn't vote for in the assembly, I would think, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
Well, remember, the city council, Joe, is really what's going to bolster Mamdani if he's elected.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of city ordinances that are just not going to have to be approved by Albany. So that you got to be very precise here. So number one, he's not going to be able to, open a grocery store unless he wants to open a bodega in Queens. I mean, he's not. I mean, that takes a fleet of a pipeline into a structure. You can't do it. You can ask John Cassimatidis, who owns this radio station, how difficult that is to get that up and running. There's no way you could do it. So that's impossible. But this reminds me very much of Cuba. And when I got out of college, way back in the Stone Age, they actually had college in the Stone Age. I went to the University of Brontosaurus, I think. And when I got out of there, I taught high school in Miami, in a ghetto in Miami. And a lot of my students were children of refugees from Castro. And I know that, and I've been to Cuba. And this is exactly the party line. What Mamdani is doing is what Castro did, almost to a T, because I don't think Mamdani has the intellect enough to do any of this. He's 33 years old. But this is exactly what Castro told his people. And there's a lot of Cubans in and around the New York area. He said, look, I'm going to, take it from the Batista boys and the rich, and I'm going to give it to you. Well, what's happened since 1959? I mean, they can't even put the lights on over there.
That's right.
In Cuba. They can't get the lights on. All right? They have food shortages all over the place. They don't have any medical care because all the doctors split. We have free medical care. Well, there's no doctors. So thanks.
My wife is an ER doctor, so I can very much relate to this. You have to pay them in order for them to come to work, and we're talking to Bill O'Reilly. I want to shift gears here to Donald Trump as far as his approval rating on the handling of the Israel-Iran conflict. This is from Insider Advantage, which is the top-rated poll in terms of overall accuracy, and in the 2024 election was the most accurate. Okay, so you take this with a grain of salt. 60% approve of the president's handling, 36% disapprove. So that's a 24-point gap. So is this one of the most stunning and just masterstrokes as far as foreign policy that you have seen in your lifetime, to be able to bomb Iran out of their nuclear capabilities, but also to do so without one U.S. casualty and without creating a regional war around this effort? It truly is remarkable, and it could go down on the level of the Berlin Wall. I mean, if peace in the Middle East can actually last as a result of this. Your thoughts?
Well, number one, the poll is emotional. And if there had been a couple of casualties like Jimmy Carter The helicopters went down when he tried to rescue the hostages, and that led to Reagan's election.
Yeah.
That directly led to it. And again, history is important. Very important for people to understand a big picture. So Trump saw an opening here. U.S. Intel basically said to him, we have a window where we can go in with these bunker buster bombs and really do a lot of damage at very minimal risk. They're not ready. They think that you're not going to do it, they being the mullahs. And so Trump took the window. And it was a successful raid, and it marginalized their ability, at least in the short term, but most likely in the long term as well, to get a nuclear weapon. So Americans aren't stupid per se. There's a lot of stupid American citizens, but not across the board, okay? And I go, okay, it was the right thing to do. You can't let these maniacs have this kind of a weapon, and it worked. You know, I'm a simple man, Joe. You've known me a long time. That's my simple analysis. It was the right thing to do. Who's going to say it wasn't the right thing to do other than the real fringe, okay? So the Americans know that, and it worked. Okay, so the poll guy calls up, and he said, yeah, okay, it's fine. If it didn't work, then he'd be in the converse. So, we live in a country now that's very uneasy. Donald Trump is a gambler. He is rolling the dice economically in the foreign policy. But so far, if you want to be honest, and again, a lot of people don't want to be honest, he's ahead in points. And by December, we'll know about the economy. And if that surges, then Trump goes into Ronald Reagan territory.
Yeah, because you have peace and prosperity, and we're talking to Bill O'Reilly, Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst. Pre-order it now. It's on sale September 9th. Bill, every time is on a New York Times bestseller list for a reason. I've read all of your books, and it's just a page-turner and just a great look back on history. And there's always something to write about. That's certainly for sure. Looking at the Trump economic two numbers actually stand out to me, Bill, and this will be the final question. We'll let you go. 2.1% is inflation right now. It's above 9% under Joe Biden. And border crossings are down more than 95%. And that's in the first 5 months that we've seen such progress from President Trump. What can trip him up going into the midterms? Will it be if the economy falters? Because it seems like on other fronts, things are going pretty well. Does perhaps the Middle East dissolve back into chaos? What can Democrats run on in 2026?
Well, they don't have anything to run on now, and there's no leadership in the party, so there's no concerted message. Democratic Party is really in trouble. I think it's at its lowest ebb ever, and worse than Carter.
Yeah.
Right now. And that's because of Biden. Biden screwed up so badly. And I'm writing a Biden chapter in my paperback of Confronting the Presidents, which will be out in late fall. I got too many books, Joe. But yeah, thank you for reading them. I appreciate it.
Of course.
But the Democratic Party, it really didn't have anything. And so they're sitting back in the weeds. And they're waiting for some failure. They're rooting for some failure. That was the CNN thing. That was totally. But when I saw that, that came across my desk, and I said, "Wait a minute, this story has no backup at all. Who's there? There's no Americans on the ground there. There's no Israelis on the ground, and the Iranians can't even go in there because they might get a mountain fall on them.
Right.
So who's reporting that the damage wasn't extensive? And you could see it. Anybody with a brain, anybody who'd been in journalism for a while, had to know that was a totally bogus report. But CNN didn't care because it wants to hurt Trump. That's not going to work. By December, we'll know about the tariffs. We'll know about the economy. We'll know about wage rises, which is a key to Trump's success. That's why he was successful in his first term. Wages went up. And if if things stay the same or they improve, that he gets a deal with Putin, and Putin is a psychopath, so boy, that is much harder than Trump thought it was going to be. And I told him myself, eye to eye, this man is, he's not rational. And he's on the cover of Confronting Evil, by the way, along with the Ayatollah.
That's right.
I lucked out on that. But anyway, by December, the Democratic Party will know whether it's going to get crushed in the midterms or not. And it will depend on undefined things that will happen from now until then.
And as we know, predicting anything in this political environment is a fool's errand. Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst. It's coming out September 9th. Obviously, the paperback Confronting the Presidents. You can get that now in hardcover as well. And BillO'Reilly.com is the website. Bill, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
All right, thank you. The great Bill O'Reilly, everyone. And his books are really great. I'm not just saying that. I do have every one, and it's a history lesson. And when my son's old enough to kind of understand him a little bit more, he'll be getting those handed down to him as well.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Building a portfolio with Fidelity Basket Portfolios is kind of like making a sandwich. It's as simple as picking your stocks and ETFs, sort of like your meats and other toppings, and managing it as one big, juicy investment. Now that's pretty good. Learn more at fidelity.com/baskets. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
This episode is brought to you by GMC. GMC certified service technicians are factory trained to fit your vehicle with the tires specifically developed for it. And with our tire price match guarantee, you get the best fit for the best deal. Let us do the work. Available on select eligible tire brands at participating dealers only. Offer ends 12/31/2025. Terms apply. See dealer for complete details. Visit gmc.com/service to learn more.
Learning through play starts with Lego Duplo. With Lego Duplo, toddlers can develop real-life skills while having fun with colorful bricks made just for them. Large, easy to grip, and safe to explore. When children express themselves with Lego Duplo, they build patience, problem-solving, and empathy. See your child learn perseverance and self-expression with everything they imagine and create. Visit lego.com/preschool to learn more.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, let's bring in our next guest, and it is a great selection as far as that's concerned. He is the co-host of the @2way TV app, so that's @2way TV app. I listen to it every day on my morning hike, and the best part is you don't have to listen live. Listen anytime you want, anywhere you want, and that's the morning meeting and the group chat. He is a proud Democrat, but a sensible one in a time where it's hard to find these kind of guys these days, and a dad of 4 boys, by the way, which I'm raising 1 son. 4 must be a real treat for you, Dan. How's that going?
Oh, it makes politics look very easy.
Yeah, right? Seriously. What are their ages?
Between 15 and 11. They're all boys, 15, 13, and 11. So we have a lot of testosterone in our house right now, but it's great. I love it and wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Same with me as well. I have a very athletic daughter. We're actually playing in a tournament in Virginia this weekend because that's 11-year-old girls. We can't just find the town next door. We got to travel by plane down there, and we were in San Diego last year, and it's just crazy the sports that we're seeing. And I could talk about that all day, of course, but did want to talk about so much on the political scale that we could discuss here as far as the reaction to the Iran strikes, as far as look, it's only about a week or so since this happened, and it appears that they were successful based on the IAEA and their assessment, based on the CIA, based on Israeli intelligence, based on what some Iranians are even saying. But we don't completely know if they were obliterated or severely damaged or otherwise. But either way, from a political perspective, was this a victory for Donald Trump?
Oh, absolutely. Look, it's been U.S. policy, whether it was a Democratic president or a Republican president for the last 30, 40 years, that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. And for years, we've done kind of covert work along with the Israelis to try to slow it down. But we always knew that it was just slowing it down, and that at some point we were going to have to probably have a more direct confrontation with them. And obviously that time, has come, and the Israelis have done an amazing job the last kind of 2 years degrading the Iranians' capabilities throughout the region and then their air defenses. So I think it was a huge success for Donald Trump. I think, unfortunately, the Democratic Party's initial response that day, that evening on Saturday, was horrible. And I think it was really just because they cannot fathom Donald Trump having success and giving him credit. And, the first people out of the box, unfortunately, for those who don't know, Bernie Sanders on his Fighting Oligarchy tour was live on stage when he was passed the news that Trump had just posted on Truth Social that we had hit the targets. And, he literally starts saying this is unconstitutional. The crowd starts booing about Trump and chanting against him. And a few minutes later, the next major statement to come out from a Democrat was AOC saying that Trump should be impeached. And it kind of went downhill, if from my perspective, from there. And, the party, nobody said we ought to applaud the U.S. military for an amazing job, that they thankfully got out, safely and were on their way home. And that it was is a good thing to not let the Iranians get nuclear weapons. Those two important facts were omitted. And instead we got these kind of hysterical, Donald Trump should be impeached statements, which in my opinion, you can disagree with whether we should or should not have done what we did, but it was not an impeachable offense. And it wasn't even unconstitutional because, of course, Barack Obama struck Osama bin Laden. He didn't ask for the Pakistanis' permission, and he didn't ask for Congress to green light attack at midnight. So it was a rough few days to be a Democrat and watch our party kind of, lose its I don't even know what the right word is, just to lose its mind.
Just get right to the point. And we're talking to Dan Turrentine. Two-Way is the app. The morning meeting is a must-watch, must-listen to, because what you get is Dan, who is a Democrat. You get Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary, obviously Republican, and then Mark Halperin is there, who's been a great journalist for many decades, who kind of quarterbacks it and obviously offers his input as well. But what you get is civility, and you don't see that very often in political discussions, for the most part anyway. And it's just a smart broadcast as far as if you just want to learn stuff without all the noise that we see so much in other sectors of cable news. As far as you mentioned before, the response was horrible, and you mentioned Bernie Sanders and AOC. That's obviously the far left wing of the party. Yeah. Is the response horrible because there is no central message? In other words, all these folks are operating in silos. Social media allows you to do that, and you have a thought, you share it with your millions of followers, and that suddenly becomes a Democratic response. Meanwhile, John Fetterman is quite the opposite, praising the American military, praising President Trump as far as carrying out this strike, and the Israelis as well. So is that the problem, that there is no central messaging, where then we have a Fetterman saying one thing, AOC saying something else, and then a Chris Murphy saying something similar to AOC, but not quite? It seems like that's what's happening right now, that because there's no leader, Dan, therefore the message is muddled, or it's just something that if you were advising the party, you'd say, maybe we hold off on this because this is not going to look ultimately in the big picture like it's a very, very good thing.
Yeah, no, Joe, it's a great point. We are leaderless. And I think what was really stark about this, and this, I'm going to date myself a little, in 2006, when Democrats, ultimately took back the House and the Senate, if you recall, there was a clamoring within the base of the Democratic Party to cut off the funds for the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
To pop into the mainstream, the Bush, people were trying to really highlight it. And Nancy Pelosi called the caucus together in a meeting and said, knock it off. Like, we have just won the majority. This is about serious leadership. We're not going to leave the troops in the field. We're going to hold, oversight hearings. We're going to hold them accountable. And by the way, the point person on behalf of the caucus is Jack Murtha, who, God rest his soul, former Vietnam vet from Western Pennsylvania, big, rough guy, right? Mm-hmm. But he was the perfect messenger to say, we're going to ask tough questions, but we're not going to not support the troops and kind of ultimately support the mission of stabilizing Iraq. How Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, we didn't know when an attack might occur, and to some extent we didn't really know if it would ultimately happen, but it was certainly being telegraphed that the option was on the table. How the caucus did not get together and say, look, let's come up with our message. We need everyone to kind of sing from the same hymnal. AOC, who, by the way, has played ball on some other issues recently, unlike some of her other squad members, let's come to, some sort of a consensus. Let's put these people like, Jim Himes or Mark Warner, who are the ranking members in the Intelligence Committee, Here's who we want to be out there. Instead, they were totally unprepared. Hakeem Jeffries didn't put a statement out for hours. I mean, he was probably the 90th out of 200 and some odd Democrats to put one out. Chuck Schumer, even worse, waited until almost midnight, did not post it on his Senate website, did not post his statement to social media. They quietly sent it to select journalists. And it was almost like maybe the tree can fall and not a lot of people will hear it on Saturday at midnight, which, of course, is comical. And it just, to your point, it shows a complete lack of leadership, of preparation, and the tail is wagging the dog. The loudest voices in the base are really dictating policy right now.
And we're talking to Democrat Dan Turrentine. And that's the thing, right? Who ultimately you think wins as far as this ideological battle within the Democratic Party? Will it be the far left, which seems to have the energy? It gets a lot of the media attention because it seems, having somebody who studies media on a daily basis, the more provocative you are, like a Jasmine Crockett or an AOC or an Eric Swalwell, the more chance you're going to get on MSNBC or CNN because you're going to bring that big provocative soundbite that then goes viral, perhaps for the wrong reasons, but hey, good enough. So as we go into 2028, and I know that's a long way off, but just as you're looking at this party from within as a Democrat, does the far left win? Does AOC, for instance, perhaps get the nomination, or do the moderates end up winning? But I can't name a moderate that may run. Josh Shapiro, perhaps, and he gets the nomination. Because all I remember, Dan, is during the 2020 campaign, and we had all those Democrats running, and I thought Michael Bloomberg, foolishly, I look now, looking back, I thought he had a chance because he ran New York so successfully from the center, and he was eaten alive and was out within a couple of weeks in terms of running for the Democratic nominee. Yeah. So I wonder if that happens again and the far left wins here, Dan.
Well, interesting thing, Joe, the last 20, 30 years, our party kind of almost every year or every cycle flirts with the progressive. Think about Howard Dean, right? Bernie Sanders in 2016, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren in 2020. But ultimately kind of settles back with the comfortable shoe a little bit. Now, to the progressives, that's been our problem. It's why Hillary lost and Joe Biden was not a great candidate, et cetera. I don't know. To your point, the far left is the most provocative. They're the most clear in what they stand for. It's not what I agree with, but I think everyone would agree. Like AOC doesn't kind of deal in pastels. She deals in bold colors.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that Mamdani has showed is in terms of how he ran his campaign, he was laser focused on the issues that the people, that a segment of New York cares about the most, which is affordability. Now, what he said, I disagree with in terms of kind of socialist policies. But what you didn't hear Mamdani talk a lot about was Donald Trump. He wasn't talking about our democracy is at risk. He wasn't talking about kind of all these, the kind of liberal Ivy Tower kind of things. He focused on the real lives of real people. And I think this is a long-winded way of saying for 2028, I don't even know what AOC's theory of the case would be for why she would want to be president. I know why she hates Trump. I know why she thinks he's terrible. I can tell you why Bernie Sanders, thinks that there's an oligarchy in this country. But I don't know what on earth they want to do for the average person to make their life better and what the most important issues will be, let's say 2 years from now. Is immigration still a big issue? If the big, beautiful bill goes through and is tax policy a big deal? So I think, interestingly, Pete Buttigieg, I think, is quietly kind of beginning to lay a foundation that actually may be a little bit real in that he knows who he is. He can talk to anybody. He's unafraid to go talk on Fox News. He's unafraid to go on MSNBC. He hasn't laid out a theory of the case, but he's showing a dexterity and a comfort level that I haven't seen from other people. But my goodness, long way to go. I'm almost more curious to see who wins here in New York City in November.
Well, precisely. And I wanted to get to that next. And by the way, Emerson poll just out recently. Presidential primaries, Buttigieg leads the Democratic pack, albeit just with 16%, and Kamala Harris, 13%, which does not seem to be much enthusiasm around her at all, even to run for California governor. Gavin Newsom, 12%, AOC, 7%, Shapiro, aforementioned, 7%, and then you have the Sanders, Booker, Whitmer, so on. So that's interesting. On the Republican side, it seems to be a lot more definitive. J.D. Vance, as you would expect as a sitting vice president, 46%. His favorabilities have gone way up since about a year ago when it was announced that he would be Donald Trump's running mate. Marco Rubio, 12%. That would be a pretty formidable ticket, wouldn't it? J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. Could you see it shaking out that way on the Republican side? That seems to be more of a foregone conclusion. Maybe not so much Rubio, but at least J.D. Vance being the heir apparent to Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think there's no question that he will likely be the Republican nominee. I think the biggest question really is how much runway Donald Trump gives him to be his own candidate, and how much does Donald Trump want 2028 to be about Donald Trump? I think we could all see. Yeah, and that'll just depend on kind of where he is. And look, the other thing I'll just add quickly is, historically, after 8 or 12 years, the country kind of wants to go in a different stylistic direction than because they just kind of fatigue on it. Trump, I think, is going to test that limit because ostensibly he's been, kind of in the public eye for 12 years. So we'll have to see.
That's true. We saw that with Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and that was 12 years of Republican rule. Granted, a recession probably took down George H.W. Bush with a little sprinkling of Ross Perot. But yeah, that's the way that worked out. And we're talking to Dan Turrentine. The two-way app is what you want to add to your phone or however you listen to podcasts. And obviously the morning meeting is a great listen. So please do give that a listen. So I'm curious, as far as Mamdani, we talked about him before, but there was a story that came out recently, and it's a campaign document, Dan, that says that his administration will, quote, shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in, and I'm quoting here, richer and whiter neighborhoods, unquote. I mean, how much runway does Mamdani have in a general election as more of this stuff comes out, and as far as having free universal child care and having free busing and government-run supermarkets? In a general election where it's not just the Democratic Party voting, will this be an opportunity for an Adams or a Cuomo, or do you think they split the vote along with Curtis Sliwa on the Republican side, and then Mamdani can get in with like 34-35% of the vote?
That's the $1 million question. I think there was a poll out, I think today or within the last few days that since the election that showed Cuomo and Mamdani both, I think it was at 38%, and then Adams at 14%.
Wow.
I think if you put that Cuomo and Adams vote together, right, they win. I don't know if Mamdani can do it. It's the great question. Can the other side consolidate behind one person before he is already racing, because he knows this, to soften his positions, moderate on issues, and try to kind of attract working class voters to get over the hump?
It's going to be a fascinating time here in the New York City area. That's certainly for sure over the next couple of months. And unfortunately, I'm being told that we got to go. But Dan, thanks so much for joining us. And really, I mean, let's definitely have you back. And again, guys, it's a two-way app. Definitely listen to the morning meeting and everything else that it has to offer, because it's really smart political commentary, as you just heard from Mr. Turrentine. So again, you have a great rest of your weekend, sir, and we will talk again soon.
Thanks for having me on, Joe.
All right, thanks, Dan.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original, which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. And as your vacation maximizationer, I'm going to make sure you hear the maximum sizzle of Comfort Inn's free hot breakfast. Let's get real close. Maximum apple. Now that's fresh crispimization. Maximum waffle. Hear that crunch. And that's maximum coffee. Oh yeah, that's the pour I'm talking about. breakfast maximized before hitting the road. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, pop quiz hotshots. What if you were told even 10 years ago that America's largest and most complex city would likely be governed by a communist who has called for abolishing prisons, the New York City Police Department, private health insurance, medical bills, guns, like all of them, creating legal drug injection sites for drug abusers, legalizing sex work, ending all cash bail laws, making all drugs legal, creating government-run supermarkets, offering up free busing, and universal free child care while ending all deportations and eliminating ICE from doing their jobs? What if I told you that this person has a real chance of being elected? But that's Zohran Mamdani. And you know what? The reason why I give him a puncher's chance here is because, A, I guess the extreme side of the Democratic Party is the loudest and most energized, thanks to the folks like AOC, who is your congresswoman in the 14th District representing parts of the Bronx and Queens, and also the fact that the media is willing to bring this guy over the finish line in any way they can. For instance, here is Mamdani on CNN with Aaron Burnett talking about how he doesn't like capitalism. And trust me, there was no pushback from the host who literally used to work for CNBC, which at last check is a business network. Cut 4, go.
Do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And that's what I'm focused on, is dignity and taking on income inequality.
So part of this whole distribution of wealth thing, all right, is that literally there is a document out from Mamdani's official campaign website. It's called Supporting Homeowners and Ending Deed Theft. The document says that if elected, this maniac's administration will, quote, shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and here's the best part, whiter neighborhoods. It adds, the property tax system is unbalanced because assessment levels are artificially capped, so homeowners in expensive neighborhoods pay less than their fair share. The mayor can fix this by pushing class assessment percentages down for everyone and adjusting rates up. Whoa! I mean, this is insanity, people. All right? I'm not getting excited because, hey, it's radio and I really want to get you fired up. I am truly fired up about this. How could everybody is? Anybody who reads this document. You want to tax richer and whiter neighborhoods? So based on the color of my skin, that's the tax level that I spend? If you thought a lot of people have left New York now, right, as far as it's the second highest exodus rate in the country, only behind ding, 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 Gavin Newsom's California, well, trust me, everybody will leave who is sane and sober, especially first and foremost businesses who are going to see the corporate tax rate under Mamdani up more than 50%, and they're already at one of the highest levels in the country. If you're a business here, why would you ever stay? If you make anything resembling decent money, why would you ever stay? Florida, Tennessee, Texas, looking more and more inviting right now. That is certainly for sure. Oh, and here's one more beauty from Zohran. He says he will not work with Trump on ICE in any way, shape, or form. In other words, if you are here illegally and you committed crimes, in Zohran Mamdani's New York, you get to stay. Cut 6, go.
He's coming. What do you say?
That I'm going to be here to stand up and fight back. And unlike the current mayor, I'm not going to be working alongside the Trump administration to build the single largest deportation force in American history. I'm going to actually represent each and every New Yorker. And that includes immigrant New Yorkers. And that means standing up for the laws of this city, like our sanctuary city policies, which have kept New Yorkers safe for decades and were defended by Republicans and Democrats alike for years until we got this mayor who fearmongered about them so extensively.
Does that involve the NYPD?
It means that the NYPD would actually serve New Yorkers and not assist ICE in their operation.
People, I can't stop using that word. But yeah, everybody gets to say. He says immigrants, and of course, CNN could have just said, oh, do you mean illegals as well? But of course, that question wasn't asked. But yes, he means everybody. This is Joe Concha. This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel for Towers Foundation Show. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you have I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network. 77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.